so I really wanted to share something that I've come across that's been a big aha moment for me. So we spend a lot of time talking about or learning about connection and how connection is often related to vulnerability. Now, when we think about vulnerability, we often think about sharing the things that are hard for us, sharing the times when we have pain, and that is part of what vulnerability is. But there's another part that we often forget about, which is the vulnerability of sharing our hopes, our dreams, our joys, the things that are going right and good and that we're excited about. And we don't often think about how do we approach those moments when someone is sharing something good and joyful with us. So I came across this also in studying about resilience, because resilience is affected by our connection to other people. So when we look at how do we approach other people, there's kind of two factors that we consider. One factor that we consider is if we are actively responding to them or passively responding to them. The other is if we are constructive and positive, or if we're destructive in our response. So that creates kind of four quadrants and four types of responses that we might have when someone shares something joyful with us, something good and that they're excited about. So let's look at each one of these. Now, each one of these quadrants has a name. Let's look first at when we respond actively but destructively to somebody. So let's consider this example. This happens a lot with me when I'm talking with my kids or with someone in my family. So my daughter has been doing robotics, and she came home and started talking about how excited she was to be able to work on her robot over a couple of days break from school. She brought the robot home and she wanted my help. Now, taking this excitement, you'd think that I would, want to encourage the excitement and be involved in robotics. But what was my first response? My first response was to start thinking about and talking about, oh, this is another thing for me to do. So I start telling her, we're going to have to see when we can actually do this. I don't know if it's going to fit in. And as I do and make each of these comments, it's like I'm poking a hole in the balloon of her joy and just deflating it, right? I'm taking that joy away. So when we poke holes and we start to immediately be critical of, or we start to kind of deflate the joy that someone brings to share with us, and most often that's because we think about how it affects us, that's what we call a joy thief, right? Where they're popping their joy, taking away their joy. In that moment, they bring it to us, and we just kind of get rid of it because we're so concerned about its effects on us. Now, another way that we can respond in these situations, and I find this happening a lot too, is what we call a conversation killer. And this is a passive, constructive way of responding. When this happens, they come and they share something happy with you. So my kids will come home and share something that happened at school. And to me, I'll listen, and maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal, but they're sharing it with me, or I'm distracted by something else, and I kind of barely respond. Oh, yep, got it. Oh, good. Okay, and what does that do? That response kills the conversation. It's like they're offering me this thing that they're excited about, and I don't really take it or receive it. I just kind of move on because I'm distracted, which is most often the cause. So, being a conversation killer, that's something that happens to me a lot. Another way that we can respond is a hijacker. Now, a joy hijacker is someone that is passively destructive in responding when someone brings joy. So a hijacker will center the focus back on them. So someone comes, and I see this happen a lot of times with my kids. It's like they're competing for attention, right? So one will come and they'll say something great that happened to them, and then their sibling chimes in and says, oh, this great thing happened to me. They're trying to change the focus to them. Okay. Now again, it might not be that we're trying to take their joy, but in our response, our first response being, oh, look at what happened with me, it's like we hijack that joy. Now it's all about us. Now, the one that has the most positive impact and that can reinforce both resilience and connection and people's willingness to share their joys, their excitement, their hopes and dreams with us is what's called a joy multiplier. They say, oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Tell me more about that. Or what were you most excited about? Or what do you think is going to happen next? We help magnify and continue and expand their joy by asking questions and responding with interest and attention and enthusiasm. Now, that doesn't mean that we might not have any concerns, but we can talk about those later, right? Sometimes there are valid concerns that we have about something that someone is excited about. But how do we honor them bringing us that joy in the moment? Do we first honor it and expand and multiply their joy, and then deal with any considerations that we need to talk about? So take a minute this week and think about, how do you respond to the way that different people in your life bring you joys and excitements and things that are good happening to them? Are you a joy multiplier? I want to be a joy multiplier, but as I look at my life, really, most of the time I find my tendencies are to respond either as a conversation killer or as a joy thief, and mostly with my family. I'm a lot better at being a joy multiplier with people who are not in my family. That's just how it goes sometimes. So take a minute and think about, who do I tend to be a joy multiplier with? Who do I tend to be a conversation killer or a hijacker or a joy thief with? And how can I slightly shift my reactions and honor the joy and vulnerability that they bring me when they share their joys with me? Try it out this week. See what happens. Hope you have fun trying it. We'll see you next time.